the Baen Free Radio Hour.
Hello and welcome to the Baen Free Radio Hour. This week, Sean Hazlett interviews Sharon Lee on I Dare, another amazing entry into the beloved Liaden Universe. And later, we continue with the serialization of One Jump Ahead by Mark L. Van Name, Part 42.
Welcome to the Baen Free Radio podcast, or the Baen Free Radio Hour podcast. I missed the hour. I'm here with Sharon Lee. Sharon, welcome.
Hi, good to see you.
Okay. As we were discussing before we started the interview, this is a re-release of I Dare. Before we get into all that, for new readers discovering this re-release, how would you just describe the overall universe? We can get into I Dare later on, but I mean,
there are 27
pressure.
Books in this universe.
No
right?
pressure. Just
No
like
pressure.
in one sentence. Just, no, just kidding.
Elevator pitch. The Liaden Universe is a vast space opera universe that Steve Miller and I created back in, the 1990s. The first Liaden book came out in 1980. Well, in the 1980s. The first Liaden book, Agent Change, came out in 1988. The second came out in 1989. The third came out also in 1989, and then we had a 10-year break.
Say more about that. Well, first of all, who did those books come out? Like what publisher was it?
A Random House. Well, Del Rey. They were Del Rey Mass Markets. And Del Rey had a situation at that point where they gave you a 3-book contract.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did not blow the hatches off, they tanked you. And so that's what happened. And we had to wait.
Not a lot has
10
changed
years.
since then.
No, it's gotten harsher, actually. It's gotten harsher.
Yeah.
But we had to wait 10 years for our rights to come back to us. In the meantime, we kept writing. Clan Corval is the major actor in the Liaden Universe, and we usually follow one or maybe more members of the clan as they have adventures. There are some books in which we don't, but we're not talking about those right now. They are a spacefaring family. They are traders and pilots. They are very lucky, and because some of them are also scouts, we get to visit alien cultures and work out problems in communication and pirates and all the rest of that. It's space opera. We can do whatever we want to do. We've done straight up romances. We've done westerns. We've done gangster movies. I Dare is a gangster, gangster story, basically. And it follows Agent Change, Conflict of Honors, Carpe Diem, Plan I Dare, that arc, and Plan B and I Dare. And it was intended to be the last in the 7-book arc. We're now on book 27, so clearly we don't know what we're talking about.
Now, you mentioned the Clan Corval, again, for people who are just new to the series, was lucky.
Yeah.
But it's more than that. Like it's kind of almost genetic. Can you talk just a little bit about that concept? Because this stretches throughout all the books, I think, or most of the books.
Clan Corval started in another universe, which was crystallized. And Clan Corval and a bunch of other people were able to escape when the wave created by the crystallization of the old universe released enough energy that they were booted into, watch me wave my hands, booted into our universe. The old universe was a steady state universe. They've gotten kicked into this universe, which keeps on expanding. But Clan Corval in the old universe came from founders who had been manufactured humans, and they were manufactured to make people like them and to be fortunate. And those two things have actually bred true. People sort of instinctively trust a member of Clan Corval, and they have a very strange relationship with random event. They are lucky. That doesn't mean they always have good luck. What it usually means is that unlikely events happen around them. And one of the other characters just recently has been trying to figure out if there isn't a formula that she can use. So if she can stay within their sphere of luck, nothing bad will happen to her.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that, yes.
Okay. Now, when you first imagined the Liaden universe, did you envision that it would sell 27 books and have like this size and scale?
No, never. I used to tell stories to myself when I was a kid, and Belcon and Mary, two of the founders of Clan Corval, were the major actors in the stories I told to myself. And then I met Steve, and I told him about these characters I had, and he went, "Well, tell me about them. What do they do?" And so I did that, and we sat down one evening and jug of wine, pencil and paper, and planned out 7 books. That was it. We were going to write 7 books. I told you that. And what happened was we sold the first 3 books to Del Rey. They axed us. We kept writing. By the time our rights returned, and Steve Pagel of Misha Merlin called us up and said, "Do you have the rights to your 3 novels?" We were able to say to him, "Well, there actually are 7 novels, and they're all written." And at that point, he said, "I'll take them," which never happened. So we sold our 7 novels, but they were doing so well when we finished I Dare, which was the 7th novel. I Dare originally ended 1 chapter short of what got published. And Steve called us and said, "I've got I Dare and it's great, but that ending, people were going to think there aren't going to be any more Liaden books. So can you write me an ending so that people will know that the universe is going to go forward?" And I looked at Steve, and Steve looked at me, and we went, "Oh, it is? Cool." So the universe went forward and sideways on some stories. And Tony, after Misha Merlin went out of business, Tony found us worthy of her support. So we've been writing for Tony, I don't even know, since 2011, I think.
Okay.
We've been writing for Bain since 2011.
What do you think defines the Liaden feel that draws so many readers back?
It's the characters. That's the feedback we get all the time. I want to meet these characters. I'm like, no, you don't. I want to have dinner with these characters. Yes, but don't insult them. But it is the characters, and it's also. Can I actually read you something? Because I was going through
Absolutely
the other day, and I found a thing from I Dare. And this was a quote from a fellow author who we sent I Dare manuscripts to and said, "Can you get the quote?" And she says, "Imagine Georgette Hare crossed on James Bond in a universe of starships and psychic wizardry, and you'll have something like the Liaden novels of Sharon Lee and Steve Miller. Nobody else in the field combines space opera and comedy of manners with the same deftness and brio." And you don't always get brio.
No, you don't. You definitely don't.
And that was Deborah Doyle. But that sort of sums it up. We found that the Georgette Hare novels, the Regency novels, are you familiar with Georgette Hare?
I'm not.
No, okay. It's an alien society. with its rules and its gestures and its bows, and its own language, which meshes really, really well with space opera. The Liaden culture is an extremely formal culture. They have something called the Liaden Code of Proper Conduct, which is like one of our characters when he was a kid used it to stand on so he could reach the top shelf of the library. And they're very, very serious about their manners and the correct way to phrase things and the proper bows to make. They have a concept called Melanti, which acknowledges what we all do, which is we all act in certain ways depending on what our job is at this minute. You know, when I was a secretary, I had certain duties that I had to perform in certain ways, and I couldn't just say, no, I'm writing a book now, I can't, because that was a whole different Melanti. So they have formalized this in their culture, and Terrans, who are a lot simpler in many ways, just kind of look at this and go, no, that's too hard. My brain hurts. So it's a very interesting, and I think we enjoyed writing the juxtaposition between the very, very formal and the more casual. And that's part of the joy of it too.
Now, how has the universe changed or evolved as you've changed as a writer?
I was thinking the other day that the older we've gotten, one of the problems we had with Balkan is the age-old problem of what happens when a hero doesn't need to be a hero anymore. When somebody comes home, and then you have to be. And I don't know about your father. My father was in World War II, and he never spoke. He never spoke of the war. It was just in a box someplace else. So we have two characters who have basically stopped high level, are we going to die in the next 5 minutes kind of lifestyle, and come back to, okay, we've done all these things and we're now on a planet where the people need help and we can help them, but it's no longer helping them by shooting the bad guy. Now we have to figure out how to work together and how to build together rather than just making sure all the bad guys are dead. So that has changed. They have a lot more, there are a lot more committee meetings now than there are gunfights.
Yeah, that's usually requires two very different people. It's like that. There's like a saying that goes something like, "He who wins the crown is not the same as the person who reigns."
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and because they're very different skill sets.
And there's something like that in Idea when Natessa says something to Patron about you can take over, but then what? Because what you were going to have to do to take over is going to be terrible. It's an interesting concept, an interesting puzzle, and it repeats in many people's stories, not just ours.
Now, having 27 books, how do you maintain continuity across the canon?
We have readers
who are helpful sometimes, I'm sure, who provide you with tons of helpful opinions.
No, not opinions. It's not even opinions. One of the terrible things is that because we're still writing, I don't have time to go back and read the books again. And we have people among the friends of Liad, as they call themselves, and they truly are friends, who do a yearly reread.
Oh, really?
Of the Liaden novels. So I can say to them, okay, scavenger hunt. In what book did X find Y? And within an hour, most times much less than that, I'll have an answer.
Oh, wow.
You know, they are an amazing resource. If I had to keep a database, as so many of my colleagues do, I would go nuts.
I can imagine, because it slows you down when you're writing.
Oh, it does. You have to stop and go look it up, or you have to say, okay, I'll find it. I'll send a message to future me to go look it up. And I know how the story goes, but I don't know what specific things happen in which book.
Mm-hmm.
So looking it up becomes a little bit of a problem sometimes.
Now, you've touched on this a little bit earlier in this interview, but there might be more nuances or more elaboration. Why does Clan Corval seem to resonate so deeply with readers across generations?
Because it's found family. Clan Corval has fallen on bad times. There are very, very few members in this clan at the moment. But they gather people as they're moving down this timeline. They are gathering people who want to be, if not of Corval, then with Corval, and they're creating allies. The book I'm working on right now is they have fallen heir to a derelict space station.
Mm-hmm.
And they need all kinds of, they're not station keepers, they're traders and pilots and scouts. And they need all kinds of help to bring this thing online and start earning money and doing the service that they need to do for the independent logics. And people who are coming out of the woodwork wanting to help them, because where Corval is a not so much is a nexus of competence.
Mm-hmm.
Corval can make things work, and they will. And once they've said they're going to do something, they deliver.
The next question is related 100% to that. What does Corval stand for at its core, ethically and thematically? Yeah.
Honor, loyalty. I have a card around here somewhere. Honor, true love. Don't remember what it says anymore. Poor card. But they believe that people are people.
Mm-hmm.
And because of their history and having at least one scout in the current mix of family, they accept people on their own terms, to the point where one of the characters meeting a cousin for the first time, his cousin says something that is clearly impossible, if not insane. And he doesn't thrust cousin away. He doesn't say that's nuts. He asks for an explanation, and he says to himself, if my cousin Renzel is mad, I should know that. Because the truth of the matter is we all have our hot buttons. We're all nuts about something. And it's good to know what's going to set someone off, so you can take that into account when you're dealing with them. You don't just totally reject them as everything they do is crazy. That's another thing people like about the books. Family.
Now, you mentioned themes as family. You mentioned what Clan Corval stands for, two things of which were honor and loyalty. How do you balance?
The third one is wit, and that's the other thing that people like about the books. The dialogue is I have to say this of myself, is extremely witty. There's a lot of understated humor, and I interrupted you, and I'm sorry, but I'm old and my memory is not what it used to be.
No worries at all. All right, but focusing again on honor and loyalty, how do you balance Corval as both a close-knit family, like you said, and all that applies, and a political institution?
Politics on Liaden is very different. They have a council of clans. And we've kind of managed to skirt politics within the stories by focusing on, okay, this is the job we want to get done. And I kind of struggle with but then you have this, there's always this guy in real life. But one of the reasons we tell stories is to prepare us for something that hasn't happened yet, to give us practice for things. So we're practicing for a place where that guy can be persuaded or set to doing something that he's really good at and valued for the thing that he's really good at.
Again, competence is kind of one of those.
It is competence porn. It is very much.
Yeah. All right. Now you talked briefly about the luck. What does the luck symbolize for you?
The luck is random event. I, for instance, have had a very lucky life. I got to be a writer, and I got to mostly spend my life being a writer, making my living from something I love to do. Not many people get to do that. And some bad things have happened, but again, that's luck. The universe is random, and we can only make the best of what we get, I guess. It's the and we'll take a moment here. Okay.
What's the emotional cost of being Corval?
Again, the book I'm writing right now, one of the characters who is the Delm of Corval. The Delm of Corval is the last say in the clan. The Delm of any clan is the last say in the clan. If your Delm says to you, there are 50 men with guns at the front door, I want you to go unarmed, open that door, and walk out. That's what you do. So the Delm spends lives is the phrase in the books. And the Delm of Corval has to comfort his sister, who is a ship's captain, who has had some rough times and has almost lost a couple of her crew. And one of the things he says to her is, it's hard. It's hard when they give you their love and their loyalty, and you can't always keep them safe.
So just the burden of responsibility.
And they're your family that you're sending out maybe to die. Not to quote unquote, not just your men, but people that you grew up with. So the other wisdom is that Delms are always a little mad.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
For new readers discovering this re-release, how would you describe I Dare? I'm not going to limit it to one sentence, but how would you describe it in the one paragraph?
In one paragraph. I Dare is the coming of age story for the clan's ne'er-do-well. And he does a great job. I was surprised. I did not like this character.
And now you do?
No, he did a great, he really surprised me. And I remember sitting down with Steve after we finished this, and I said, boy, Patrick did a good job. Did you expect him to do that well? And he said, well, I thought he had something going for him.
Now, what makes the Agent of Change arc so enduring for long-time Liaden fans?
It's 7 interlinked books. So they introduce the characters, and it's a true series. What has happened at book 27, what we have now is a universe rather than a 7-book series or a trilogy. There are some internal arcs within the 27. Trader's Leap, Riven Dance, and Diviner's Bow is a trilogy within the arc. But mostly right now we're writing adventures within the universe.
What was happening in your creative life when you originally wrote I Dare?
Well, at that point, I was a reporter for a weekly newspaper in China, Maine. It was a good news newspaper. We sought out our neighbors and we wrote about what they did, their creative efforts, or their dogs, or one guy made maple syrup, so he gave me a tutorial on how to make maple syrup. It was a really interesting job. I was also a copy editor on Nightside News for the daily paper. Steve was running Circular Logic, which was the largest computer bulletin board in Central Maine at that point. And we were doing what most writers do, is we worked our day job and then wrote around the day job. I Dare was being written when we hadn't gotten the rights back to the first 3 books. So we were just basically writing for us at that point. And I think I was leading on I Dare. And what would happen was I would write however many pages I wrote that evening and meet Steve at the kitchen table and hand him the pages, and he would pour the wine and read the pages and okay, and bounce ideas off of each other. And it was, despite having to have day jobs, it was a very creative time because we weren't constrained by deadlines, we weren't constrained by publisher expectations. We were just writing, telling a story.
What does it feel like to see I Dare return as an anniversary edition?
When I looked at 2002, I went, surely not. It can't possibly have been 2002. But when I read the proofs, the page proofs, I was actually impressed. It does a really good job of filling you in on the backstory, telling you who these people are and how they got there. You could probably pick it up without having read the other books and still get full enjoyment out of the story. So I was well done past us.
Now let's talk a little bit about character development. When you created Valcon, what were the essential traits you wanted him to have? Or was it just emergent? You just kind of started writing and he started behaving in a certain way?
Well, as I said, I had these 2 characters in my head for a long, long, long time, since I was a kid. Valcon was always a scout or a pilot or both. And Miri was always a soldier. Because when I was growing up, women soldiers that wasn't a thing we had. So that was cool. What surprised Steve when I was talking, because Steve used to be a music reviewer among all of the rest of the things he did, is when we sat down and he said, "Tell me about your characters." I said, "Well, Valkyrie, he's a pilot and he's a scout and he's a spy. He's a spy, but he also has an omnicora." And Steve said, "What's an omnicora?" And I said, "It's like, a portable organ." And he went, "He's a musician?" And I said, "Yes, well, of course he's a musician." And that startled him. I had not expected. The other thing that Steve had was something called agoraphobia. which gave him panic attacks. And Valcon, when we come to know him as he's breaking his training from having been a spy unwillingly, has several episodes of having a panic attack, which are very true to life. And I had not expected that particular development. So that was an addition to the character that gives a lot of depth to him. He's still doing what he's got to do, but man, it's scary sometimes. So that was also a surprise. But characters, writing is just sitting and listening to what the characters tell you. I mean, really. And what a gift when one of the characters tells you something and you say, geez, I didn't know that.
Well, let's talk about Miri a little bit. What inspired her voice?
Oh, Mary's a Baltimore girl. I'm from Baltimore originally, and that is the actual dialect she uses is
As soon as you
Baltimore
said the
Street.
word Baltimore, like
Baltimore, yeah, it's
I don't know if you've seen the show The Wire.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
You have to watch. They get the accent right. I grew up in Delaware, so
Oh, okay. So you're familiar.
I don't have shade. I don't have really the accent, but my entire extended family does, and it's very similar. It's almost identical. So it was like going to a family reunion when I watched that series. So definitely watch that series. Anyway, this is not about that, but just watch it. Yeah, it's
no, okay. I will. But Mary speaks her home dialect is my street dialect, which she talked on the street in Baltimore.
So you say daughter,
her Baltimore,
water. Yeah, I got it.
And what's interesting about Mary is that people tend to say, well, I don't like Mary's accent, or she's stupid. And she's not a stupid woman. She's a very smart woman. She speaks, and this is what I have been talking about before, where you accept people as you find them. Okay, here you have this person who doesn't speak high class, but she can figure things out, and she can mostly figure out how to keep you alive. And okay, this is how we're going to run this. And, I don't care what kind of accent the person who's going to keep me alive has. As long as I can understand and follow orders, I'm good. But I wanted, and this starts Valcon is very formal when he talks, very precise, very formal. He has rolling periods. Mary has this Baltimore street accent that just cuts to the chase and also deflates him at times when he's getting up on his high horse and says four rolling sentences, and she turns to somebody and says, that means we don't know. So I enjoy Mary. And she's come along, she's learned High Liaden and Low Liaden and several other languages. And she almost always drops back into that Baltimore cant right before she stabs you, or right before she gives you a shock. It's her preferred method.
I've heard that when I get angry, my voice, like my cant, reverts back to or sounds very similar, because places I've been, they don't. It's a very specific accent. So when they hear aspects of it, they don't quite know where to place it. They're like, it's kind of like New York, but it's not. It's like it's different. Apparently, when I get angry, it comes out because people are like, it's like I don't know what it is. Anyway, again, this is about you, not me. Okay, so how do you write this kind of life mating that feels both destined and believable?
They tell you to write what you know. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I didn't want to ask any questions on it, but it's starting to seem pretty obvious. I think the first time when you were talking about the Omnicore, like or
Mhm.
with the musician, and okay. Okay, so in I Dare, what did Valcon and Miri need to learn before they could lead Corval?
They needed to learn where all the people were because small clan scattered. But they also needed to know what the heck had happened to Patron. Because in Plan B, when Corval realizes that they're being hunted by a very determined enemy, they put Plan B into effect, which is all of the members of the clan go to safe places. The children and the old people are hidden away at Runig's Rock. Several of the adults are out there, very obvious, and drawing fire. Patron doesn't sign in. Nobody knows where he is. They don't know if he's an agent of this vast enemy. They don't know if he's dead. They don't know if he's just, managed to hit it big at the craps table and is bidding a solar system. Though that should make the news. So they have no idea where he is, what he's doing. And they also need to know where their enemy is based. Because this book came out in 2002. The other thing that happened in 2002, right about the time that the book came out, was that 2 airplanes ran into skyscrapers in New York. And that was like 2 months before this book came out. And we're like, oh no, everyone is going to trash this book. And in fact, no one did. It got wonderful reviews. People loved it. But in I Dare, they need to fire on a planet, which is not something anybody wants to do. But again, it's the greater good. We can either destroy it now, or we're looking at decades trying to track it down.
Now moving back, not back to, but we've danced around this character for a while. Now I think it's time to dive in. And I think you know exactly where I'm going with this. So Patron, he undergoes one of the most dramatic transformations in the series. What drove this arc?
Oh, Patron is a ne'er-do-well, a gambler. He in a family of pilots, he is not a pilot. And this has actually shaped him. He has decided that since he can't fulfill a traditional role in his family, that he is not going to even take his quarter share. He's going to live on his own terms, doing his own stuff, and he's a gambler. That's how he makes his living. And he does well at it. So
I imagine he should, right?
with the luck, right?
Yeah.
And he's doing pretty well, and he's off gambling. Actually, he's on a tour. He's been burdened by his cousin Sean with a non-Corval pilot, quote, bodyguard, Cheever McFarland, which turns out to be lucky. But as he's gambling, and he's heard that Plan B is in effect, and he's just, okay, that's fine. Nobody's looking for me. They're looking for the important people. An agent of the big enemy offers him Corval's ring. He said, good news, all of your kin are dead, and you are Corval. And instead of like picking up the ring and being Corval and being happy with that, he says something like, the hell I am. which sets him on the road to, for most of the book, Patron thinks he's balancing the death of his clan. Balance is another Liaden thing in which you're supposed to leave the universe in better shape than you found it. That every bad thing you've done should be balanced by a good thing. And that's probably as close to a religious tenet as Liadens have. So he is balancing the destruction of his clan by deciding to destroy these people who have destroyed Corval. And for most of the story, he believes he's alone.
Did you always know he would end up being a boss?
No, I'm like,
I didn't
he's
think
going
so.
where?
Yeah, what, Shorebleak?
Shorebleak, yeah, Shorebleak.
Describe
That-
Shorebleak just to give
No,
people
Larry
kind of a picture.
Niven. Larry Niven was to blame for that because he called places things like not Shorebleak, but things like Gosh Wow, and he named goofy things. So Shorebleak, you gotta be descriptive. And Natessa brings it up to her, and I'm like, what? Who came up with this plan? But apparently the three of them had sat down and talked while Steve and I were at our day jobs and decided that this was the thing he was going to do. He was going to go to Shorebleak, become a boss, build a base of power, solidify himself, and then he'll be able to move forward with his balance. I claim no responsibility for that plan.
Who's responsible for it? It's just one of these
Patron
emerging
and
things?
Natessa and Cheever.
And what thematic role does Shorebleak play in the evolution of Corval?
Shorebleak was a planet in rough circumstances. It had been a corporate planet, settled because there were timonium deposits. Timonium is an element that's useful in powering starships. So they were settling in. They were going to mine the planet. There's this planet-wide corporate culture, and then they found more timonium that was easier to get over here. And the high-level corporate left, but everybody under level 6 didn't leave. It was too much. It would have cost too much. It would have put the company in the red, so they didn't transport the useless people, who are now left trying to figure out what on earth we do. They have this corporate culture in which it's top down, boss, sub boss. So they're trying to adhere to that, but it's gone badly wrong because that guy we were talking about earlier, it's ripe for bullies to just say, okay, I'm the boss. And people get retired and another guy decides he's going to be boss and he shoots the old boss and then he becomes boss. So it's a rugged planet, and Clan Corval has just been thrown off of its planet for having killed the bad guy and saved everybody.
No good deed goes unpunished.
And no good deed goes unpunished, big time. And they feel obligated to Shorebleak for one reason. Patron took this planet over, and he invaded it. He changed everything, and said, "Okay, I'm the boss, and this is how we're going to do things, and you're going to stop killing each other right now because we've got things we've got to do." So Valcon, who is a scout, is very well aware that they've invaded and subjected an entire planet to their own purpose. So they sort of have to make good on that. And plus, it's once again this isn't right. We can do this better, and people can have better lives. To the point of Shorebleak, a very snowy and cold place, not at all like Maine. And so they're even putting up weather satellites to make the climate better and more conducive.
You actually precognitively answered my next question, which is why is the crime planet redeemed motif so important in the Liaden universe? You just answered it, so I won't ask it
Okay.
again. Okay. The Department of the Interior. This is kind of one of your most chilling antagonists. How did you design them?
They are the Department of the Interior is a Liaden supremacy organization, which believes that Liadens are better than everybody else. And to prove that, they brainwash people and give them and program them and set them loose in the universe in order to bring down governments and take over businesses and invade planets and subjugate them. And they have decided that Clan Corval, so lucky and so competent, and even then with so many allies, is in their way. And they've been trying to get rid of Clan Corval for a couple of generations now, and it's just not working. Mm-hmm. They keep slipping loose. I mean, the clan wars, going back away in Liaden history, should have finished Clan Corval, but no, they got lucky. And they continue to get lucky, and the department is now it's a grudge match. We are going to get them. And they think that by giving Patron the ring and making him their puppet, they'll actually be able to accomplish their final stage in their plan. They're not nice people. And many of them aren't even not nice people. They've just been in the wrong place at the wrong time and been reprogrammed.
So what does the DOI reveal about the dangers of centralized authority?
I hesitate to use this as an example. Publishing. Publishing is its own end. A publishing house doesn't actually care what it publishes as long as it makes money. The point of a publishing house is to feed the house.
Yeah, Jerry Pournelle, the iron law of bureaucracy, basically.
Yes.
Right? Over time, the bureaucrats decide that the preservation of the bureaucracy is more important than the purpose that the bureaucracy was originally designed for. I mean, we're seeing it. We've seen it in the last decade in the United States, if not sooner. Yeah.
So that's the danger of the DOI. I mean, what are they going to do once they get their goal? They're just going to fight to live. Mm-hmm. Without making anything better, without balancing the universe, without doing any of the things that is our work here, arguably.
Now, why was I Dare the right book to conclude Corval's war with the DOI? That's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's been out for
it's been out for 20 years. Actually, there's still this this book breaks the central authority, but there are still pods of people who have been set out to do things. And I'm gonna say, but do not hold me to it, Neogenesis, they're trying to regroup. And it falls to Clan Corval one more time to make sure that doesn't happen.
Now let's switch gears and let's talk about the tree. We haven't even mentioned it actually so far.
Well, the tree doesn't do much in this one, but okay.
How did you? Well, just in terms of the overall series, I think. So, how did you conceptualize it? And then, kind of when you're writing the scenes, how did you come up with this idea first?
Well, we'll go back again to when I was describing my characters to Steve, and I said, Delcon's a musician, he has his on the chorale, and and they have this big house on their planet, and they've got a tree, a tree. I said, well, it's because they're scouts, which is what my idea was at that point. One of the scouts had picked up this seedling and brought it home, and it's sentient. And she was like, okay, you have a sentient tree. What does it do? Well, it's a tree. I mean, it grows. And it has these people. And she was like, does it talk? And I said, well, no, not exactly. And so that that kind of thing, and it doesn't exactly, and it never does exactly. But it was very vague. I just knew that they had this tree, and it was an alien, because how many aliens do you see that are trees?
Well, there's more truth to that than you would think. They're at the Monroe Institute. They actually run experiments where, and they still do it to this day with exercises, where they'll give people seeds, and they'll convey positive intentions and say I love you and this and that. And there are others that they just won't do anything. They'll just kind of just let them be. The seedlings that they kind of do this positive intention stuff with grow faster.
Okay. And back in my day, we talked to plants. We
Yeah.
would talk to our plants and tell them how good they were and explain them plans for the day.
So it's not that out there. It's not, I mean, it's like there's some truth in a lot of this stuff. Even the luck thing that you talk about. I don't know if you've ever heard of the double slit experiment, but when you're looking, you've heard about subatomic particles or both particles and waves.
Right.
That's not entirely true. It's just what happens is when you're not observing the particle and you feed it through this double slit, it'll show a probability distribution. It'll appear to look like a wave. But if you observe the electron or the molecule, whatever you're putting through the experiment, before it goes through, it doesn't exhibit a wave pattern. It hits particle. So there's this observer effect, whereas that probability wave function collapses, right? Into so part of reality, at least at the subatomic level in quantum mechanics, is, to some extent, you are creating reality, right? Like if you
Okay.
observe it, that's what it is. If you don't observe it, you're gonna get you're gonna get some randomness. So anyway, a lot of the stuff that you've talked about in this is actually, it seems like it's outside the realm of bounds of reality, but it's not really.
In this book, do you get onto the clutch ship? This is me knowing how the story goes, but not. You do get onto the clutch ship, and the clutch ship is powered by the electron substitution drive, which chains the tendency of an electron to be in two places at once. It's in this place, it thinks about going to this place, and it projects itself, and then it goes there. So that's the other thing in the
Which I think is like quantum tunneling, basically.
okay.
Yeah.
The other thing in the Liaden universe is we do have psychic powers, and some folks don't like that. But back when we
the Army, the U.S. Army and the CIA had a program for
the
25
Ryan
years.
Institute was
Oh yeah, the Duke University. Yeah, they had like Project Stargate. They had remote viewers.
Yeah.
At Fort Meade, Maryland, and elsewhere actually. But anyway, again,
but
so
no,
it's not crazy. It's real.
It's not crazy. It's real, and it belonged in space opera as far as we were concerned, because it was science. It was science fiction. Became fiction. But the Ryan Institute was getting all kinds of funding when I was growing up. It was, calling cards and being able to look into a box and see if there was, look at a wrapped box and see if there was something in there without opening it. So fair game.
Yeah, and Princeton also had the Pear Lab as well that did the same thing, like random number generators and things like that, where they had people, where they at least had statistically significant results, right? Not like crazy stuff, but they were able to show that you could influence these random number generators. So yeah, stuff's real. It's just suppressed,
Mhm.
right? Because Langley doesn't want people, Midwestern housewives to observe secret meetings in Langley, Virginia, because they can. If they want to, they can. So, all right, back to the tree. How did you know? How early did you know that Corval would eventually relocate the tree?
When we were writing I Dare, and they got thrown off of the planet because I Dare was very surprising. I did not think that Corval was going to get thrown off the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It just never occurred to me. And we got so far, and I sat down and looked at Steve, and Steve looked at me, and I said, now what? They don't want to run the planet. They've got this stupid contract saying that they're the captain and they have to care for the passengers, which they take to be the entire population of Liad, and they did their duty, and now they're getting called up. So now what's going to happen is, and Steve said they're going to get thrown out because no good deed. The principle of no good deed. And then he said, didn't we just write a whole book where there's a new base for them?
Well, there you go. So,
And
what
there
does
you
the
go.
tree's relationship to Corval say about fate versus agency?
Repeat
Oh,
for
I'll
me.
say it again. What does the tree's relationship to Corval say about fate versus agency?
The tree thinks that Corval is its dragons. Back in Misty Times, back in the old universe, the trees had a planet, and they also had mobile units, dragons. And as far as the tree, which came from that planet, the Corval's tree, is concerned, the mobile units are it. They exist to do things for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an ongoing discussion between the mobile units and the tree about what is more important to do. Corval's tree is quite old at this point, and it's learned to be, if not patient, subtle.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how much the tree is actually, I don't know how much the tree is actually planning ahead. I mean, did the tree get bored with Liad and need to go to Shoblik? Maybe.
All right, we're coming near time right now. So, any final words for the audience? And I'll have a few more questions after that, but anything you want to tell your audience?
Go read Liaden books, they're great. And thank
And
you all.
this re-release is coming out December. I don't know when this
In
is going to air,
December.
but December 2nd.
Oh,
But
very
you could
soon.
pre-order it now.
Indeed.
So
And
you
it's got
should
an
pre-order it
awesome new
now.
cover.
That's right, which you can see right behind me. Yep. And in terms of what are you working on right now?
I am working on the sequel to a book called Salvage Right. And it has a title, but I can't tell you because Tony hasn't okayed it yet.
Yeah, we don't want to upset Tony.
No. And that's due at Bain in April.
Okay.
And after that, I have 2 more books under contract. And I
Okay.
don't know what they're about yet.
Well, that's fine. You got to finish the first one, and then
Yeah.
we can worry about that. That's a problem for another day.
Right.
Any authors that you like to read, outside of this your own series, obviously, that you would recommend, or movie, anything, anything.
Right. Well, right now I'm watching the Magret miniseries on main public broadcasting on Masterpiece Theater, which is really good. I don't watch a lot of them television. I've just recently gotten into working with glass, and there's something on Netflix called Blown Away, which is a competitive glass making series, which is sporadically interesting. I've been reading lately, because of events, very low stakes, comfy books. I've been reading a lot of Grace Burrows, who does Regencies. And honestly, not reading very much science fiction. I'm just now starting the Thursday Murder Club as a read, which is hysterical already. And I just finished the Ghost Army of World War II.
Say more about the Ghost Army. Remind me what
The Ghost Army is a report of the guys who fooled the German army into thinking that D-Day was going to happen someplace else.
At Calais, I think.
Right, at Calais.
Yeah.
And they, it's fascinating. They studied the German telegraph operators' styles, because of course everybody has a different style, and learned to mimic them. And they built armies out of rubber. Just vehicles and things out of rubber, and they would move them in, and the Germans would wake up one morning and go, "Holy God, there's a whole regiment out there!" It's like, it's a fascinating book.
The art of deception is a huge part of warfare.
And I'm still looking for a reasonable book about the magicians, the English magicians who did the same thing for the British troops. There's there's one, but the writer managed to make that topic boring.
Unreal. Yeah, that's not a great writer. So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was an absolute pleasure, and everybody should go out and they can go to Amazon. They can go to Barnes and Noble, or just even independent bookstores, and they can find I Dare and should buy it.
You should. Thank you very much, Sean.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure.
And now, as promised, one jump ahead. John Moore is a nanotech-enhanced soldier of fortune. Lobo is an AI, a living weapons and intelligence platform of enormous destructive potential. Two very dangerous wolves in a galaxy of deadly corporate and paramilitary predators. But Moore has grown weary of the killing, and just once he'd like to finish a job without leaving a trail of blood behind him. Not going to happen. Not on a pristine planet called Macon, where two gigantic corporations vie for control of the local jump gate and access to the riches of an undeveloped world. Dealing with a kidnapping and extortion scheme is only the beginning for Moore and Lobo as they work to stay one jump ahead.
For Metal Tech, you wandered the southwest bits of the district. Meat Tech clung to the northeast. Strange Kitty managed a rare trick. Both the serious metal crowd and the severely bioengineered shopped there, and both groups ranked at the top place to go for pets with more. Its storefront, warehouse, two-building complex joined popular favorites like the Busted Heart in the center of Queen's Bar. It filled most of a block, with the retail space opening on one street and the warehouse loading docks facing directly onto the other. If you wanted an augmented animal, you headed for Strange Kitty. What it didn't have in stock, its bioengineers could probably produce, and if they couldn't manage it, odds are nothing outside of the top-drawer conglomerate labs could do it either. FC tech enforcers rousted the place on those occasions when some animal rights group could grab enough public attention that the local government worried tax dollars might be slipping away. The raids never found anything outside the legal limits. For that, you had to know where to look, or have the proper introductions. So the unwanted attention never lasted long. The same groups would also sometimes make lackluster attempts at picketing the business, but protest rallies in Queen's Bar inevitably mutated quickly into parties, street fairs, or disorganized streams of fleeing ex-protesters as vendors, pickpockets, and street hustlers of all types dive-bombed any crowd that would stand still long enough for them to catch it. I paused for a few minutes outside the store to make sure no one was following me. A guy with metal chest shield implants strolled out of the shop, all of his attention focused on a lizard he was holding with his meat right hand and stroking with his metallic left, the lizard's skin coruscating in the light in time with the passes of the metal fingers. A tall, elegant woman with waist-length, straight brown hair followed with her acquisition, an amphibasset, its prominent gills in blue-teal coloring marking it as anything but an ordinary hound. A trio of fashion victim girls sporting identical body mods, wispy waists made possible only by elevated organs, thickened spinal columns supporting broad and relatively flat chests, legs rippling with muscle, emerged guiding a flat and metal-nosed 100-kilo dog on 3 identical leads, the animal's detachable metal legs moving perfectly in custom sockets. Neither the creatures nor, for that matter, the people were to my taste, but they, like the rest of the strange kitty traffic, were extremely unlikely to be working for Osterlad or Zychek. I slipped inside in a seam in the outgoing crowd, air brake fans ruffling my hair as I moved through the semi-pressurized doorway. The smell crashed into my sinuses the moment I cleared the threshold. The odors of fur, feathers, urine, dung, and sex recombined dynamically as I moved through the room, an olfactory organism in rapid, multi-directional mutation. The doorway kept the neighbors from complaining, but inside, there was no escape. Here and there, I spotted nasal fetishists, pretending to shop for as long as the management would let them linger, their noses flared and eyes glazed. Most of the customers, however, were focused, serious shoppers, thickets of them standing in the midst of the creatures that reflected their taste. Mammals, perennial human favorites, owned the display space and most of the front, where prospective buyers made unnatural cute noises over cats, dogs, ferrets, various local rodents and other animals I didn't recognize, each one a designer's custom work. I made my way past them and into the reptile section, pausing for a moment to admire plexi containers of lizards with metal barbed tails and snakes with additional eyes, probably not functional but definitely decorative, scoring their sides from the original pair backward for half a meter or more. After the reptiles, the room darkened a bit as I entered the aquatic area. Filling this part of the store were tanks of all sizes, from a few liters up to several huge containers whose capacity I couldn't easily estimate. Plexi enclosures that looked to be at least 3 meters deep, 5 long, and 3 high. Everything from tiny, purely decorative fish to predators, to serious open ocean racing rays swam in the tanks lining the walls all around me. The riotous colors and sheer variety of the fish and other water creatures on display made the mammals and reptiles appear tame by comparison. I finally made it to the back of the retail section, where the store blended into the warehouse as the ceiling rose and the amount of customer activity dropped. In cages at eye level and in enclosed areas that climbed from barely over my head all the way to the 7-meter-high unfinished ceiling, birds of all types perched, slept, flew, chattered, ate, and defecated. I've never been a bird fan, but that wasn't a problem. I wasn't shopping for a pet. Salespeople were scarce here, but that was fine too. Getting the help I needed would be easy. I stepped past the edge of the retail area and into what appeared to be a reception space fronting the vastly larger work and storage rooms behind it.
This has been the Bane Free Radio Hour. Thanks for joining us at the heart of science fiction. Join us next week as Bane publisher Tony Weisskopf recaps the last year of amazing works Bane has published and gives us a sneak preview of spring 2026. And later, we continue with part 43 of One Jump Ahead by Mark L. Van Name. Score by Ruth Judkowitz.